Hello, everyone. I'm Anthony, and today we're going to talk about the future. Well, not really the future in terms of events, but the future in terms of language. How do we express the future in English? This is a difficult topic because English does not really have a rigid rule about how we treat the future, and so we have some ideas. Okay, and you can learn the most important ideas, and that will help you express the future as you would like. So let's have a look at some slides that I have, some ideas. First of all, you can see here that we have a classic timeline. The future is the time after the past and the present. So we have a timeline that on the left is the past, then in the middle we have the present, that's now, and the future we have in red. So we have an idea of where the future stands in terms of a timeline, but we need to understand a little better. Let's see. This one's a little more complicated, okay? In the Occidental view, which uses a linear conception of time, linear conception, like we saw before, a timeline, the future is the portion of the projected timeline that is anticipated to occur. That is anticipated to occur. That means I expect the future. In special relativity, the future is considered absolute future or the future light cone. Okay, this is science, special relativity, but we can see in the graphic a little more complicated situation. The future light cone at the top, the time, instead of going horizontal, we have the time going from bottom to the top. So the time, the future light cone, represents all of the possibilities that could be also in space, because we have a plane where the observer is situated. The time hits the space plane, which is the present, and then releases what is represented as a cone above this line. This is the hypersurface of the present. The hypersurface. It's moving. You see, this is moving, and we have space going in all directions. And below this is the past light cone. So this is, in terms of relativity, this is how we present the future. It's becoming quite complicated, isn't it? Well, let's try to simplify a little bit. We have here the arrival of the future is considered inevitable due to the existence of time and the laws of physics. Due to the apparent nature of reality and inevitability, the inevitability of the future, everything that currently exists and will exist can be categorized as either permanent, meaning that it will exist forever, or temporary, meaning that it will end. The arrival of the future, inevitable. We saw before that it is expected, so it is also inevitable. So we have these laws of physics and time that moves through this dimension. So we have the reality and the inevitability of the future. Everything that currently exists and will exist can be categorized, meaning it will exist forever, meaning that it will end, temporary. So here we have some linguistic considerations. We have the word will, right? Uh, Everything that currently exists and will exist. Exists is the present and it's expressed in the present tense. Everything exists and everything will exist. So we have will. That's actually repeated a couple of times. Will here and will here. It will end. So we have some linguistic considerations talking about, again, how complicated it is really to think about the future. Now, here we have a picture of Scrooge. Well, actually, this is not Scrooge. This is the spirit of the future. The spirit of the future is walking in the door. He has his chains, his chains around him. This is a symbol of the chain. The spirit of the future shows Scrooge something that makes Scrooge really anxious. Okay, the Christmas Carol, for those of you who are not sure about this story, this is the story by Charles Dickens that Scrooge is a very, very old miser. He's a miser. He's a person that he isn't very generous. So Scrooge uh, on Christmas he doesn't behave very well. He kind of treats people badly and he doesn't really care about Christmas. And so he has some visions and he is visited by the spirit of the future, the spirit of the present, the spirit of the past. This is the spirit of the future. And he shows Scrooge something that makes him really anxious, makes him really worried. Uh, it's a grave. You can see a grave here in the picture. This is the grave here. This grave has Scrooge's name on it. So he's practically showing Scrooge where he will finish. That grave, looking at it very closely, he sees that, oh my, he's going to die on Christmas Day. Can you imagine being visited by the spirit of the future who shows you your tomb, your grave that is dated on that day, that same day? Yes, Scrooge became very, very worried about that. And I'm talking about this because I'm showing you how we we use the future also for a scene. It's a scene. We can actually bring this future into the present and look at it and examine it. That's what we do when we talk about the future. We have problems with the forms, but the idea is to take this picture and put it into the present, to be able to express it, to be able to show it to everyone who is looking and listening. So, this is one idea of the future. Uh, Now, another thing that uh, here we have a Wiktionary, free dictionary. This is uh, from from the internet, talking about the future. The future can be countable and uncountable. So the plural would be futures. Okay, so always you should consider if the word is countable or uncountable. This is very, very important, especially in a more advanced English. You really have to consider. We can talk about the future. The future is the future is bleak. The future is good. This is future as an uncountable, which is usually uncountable, but it also can be plural. Let's see how. Number one, the time ahead, those moments yet to be experienced. Okay, yet to be experienced. So they are still to come. The time ahead, we saw this, the timeline, we saw it also in the cone, something that will happen in moments yet to come. Okay, these two ideas are generally uncountable. The third also is uncountable. Goodness in what is yet to come, something to look forward to, something that you can't wait for, something that is very, very anticipated. So there is no future in dwelling on the past. There's no future. Here it is, uncountable. Dwelling in the past. Dwelling means to remain considering this. Dwell also is a place to live. We call dwellings. Houses are dwellings. But the idea here in this sense is to remain fixed. So fixate on the past. And in grammar, it's the verb tense used to talk about events that will happen in the future. So it's the future tense. We really don't have a future tense. This is not exactly true, but in finance, we have the alternative form of futures. Here we have it as a countable with an S. So I have different futures. This has to do with finance, has to do with the type of investment. And also in computing, we have an object that retrieves the value of a promise. That's very interesting that they use this term as future. Uh, let's see here. Now we have really what I was saying. English has no future tense. Okay, this on the left is the Italian future simple tense. You see that this language, like many Latin languages, has an inflection. So we have a type of a root, and then the root is modified. So each modification is given for a person. So I, io sarò, tu sarai, you will be, lui or lei sarà, he or she or it will be, saremo, noi saremo. This is the future. We will be, sarete. We will, they. I'm sorry. You will be in a plural sense. Voi sarete. So I'm talking to different people. You will be. Saranno. Voi saranno. Loro saranno. This is they will be. So those are called inflections. And English really, we have very few inflections. Maybe two, maybe three. That's about it. We have the S that goes on the present tense. Some verbs have a few more. The verb to be, for example, has different inflections. I am, you are. He, she, it is. So there are three inflections there in the way that many other languages do. Okay, this is, we don't really have a future tense. Okay. Grammatically, the future is a verb tense or a form that is indicating action that has not yet begun. Okay, this is using a negative idea, an action that is anticipated, an action that will come. It's not very good to use will for the actual definition, but here we have it. So it's an action that has not yet begun. So we're still on the plane of the present or the point of the present on the line. The simple future is usually expressed by placing the auxiliary, that's the auxiliary modal verb, will or shall. Okay, I'm not really going to talk about shall because it it's something that you can research yourself. You probably won't hear very many people using the word shall. If you hear it, you can remember that, oh, that's the future. It's like will. In front of the base form of the verb, the infinitive without the to, I will leave tonight. I will leave tonight. Other ways to express the future include a present form of be plus going to. We are going to leave. We are going to leave. And this can be said quite quickly, and you will hear something like, we're gonna leave, we're gonna leave, we're gonna leave. So this form, which is also an auxiliary, it's an auxiliary phrase, not an auxiliary word. It's an auxiliary phrase because it consists in different words, are going to. And we can change our I am going to leave, you are going to leave, they are going to leave, he is going to leave. So you have to use the present form of the be and change that according to the person. The present progressive, they are leaving tomorrow. Okay, notice very, very important. They are leaving tomorrow. I must know. When I use the present progressive, I must know when. Okay, imagine that I am calling you on the telephone and I say, hello, George. I'm visiting my mother. Okay, I'm using this as the telephone, but probably it could be more appropriate just to use the smartphone. And we are in 2022, so I'll put down the old phone and pick up the smartphone. Hello, George. I'm visiting my mother. Okay, you who are George, you understand that I am, in that moment, visiting my mother. We are on the plane of present, the line, the point of the present. I am visiting now. I don't have to say now because it's implied. I am visiting my mother. So if I say instead, hey, George, I'm visiting my mother tonight. Now, I am using the present progressive to talk about something that is programmed, something that is on my agenda. And you understand, because of the word tonight or any other reference to the time, the future time, of course, will uh, change that meaning from the present to the future. We also have the simple present. The children leave on Wednesday. This is very similar to the present progressive. We have on Wednesday. This is a very, very sure, programmed, on the agenda kind of future. We all know Wednesday, what happens, and so I'm going to use the present. And that is very similar to the present progressive. You must have the time. Otherwise, the children leave. That means it's a fact. The children leave. They leave always. They left yesterday. They leave today. They will leave tomorrow. It's the present tense, which is really the no time at all. It's across all of the time. It's a fact. Just a reminder, remember to hit the subscribe button and also the bell so you can get the notifications if you're watching and you want to see the next lesson. You can also write in the chat. You can intervene in this kind of lesson. Okay, so remember to subscribe. I will be posting more streams, and we will be continuing with different topics. Okay, the last slide about the presentation. Okay, this is from Steven Pinker, The Stuff of Thought. It's Viking Press from 2007. Steven Pinker is a very well-known intellectual. He's written about language also. The future tense has a different status. Status? Status. No, status. well, depends on how you want to pronounce that word, from the other tenses. Rather than being a form of the verb, it is expressed by the modal verb, the modal auxiliary verb will, right? We saw that before, will. It's no accident that the future shares its syntax with words for necessity. Must, possibility, can, may, might. I would also add could here to that list. And moral obligation, should, ought to. He could also add had better, is supposed to. Those are other ways of implying moral obligation. Because what will happen is conceptually related to what must happen, what can happen, what should happen, what we intend to happen. So he's using a lot of words here to say basically all of these modals can also express the future. The word will itself is ambiguous. Yes, it's ambiguous. Has at least two different meanings, ambi, between the future tense and the expression of determination. As in sharks or no sharks, I will swim to Alcatraz. Okay, I will swim is expressing determination. Determination, okay? We'll talk about that. It's homonyms. Homonyms. Those are words that have the same sound. So something like, for example, cruise and cruise. Tom Cruise, the cruise, the boat that goes across the Mediterranean or in the Caribbean, the cruise. And crews, I have many crews on my work team, different crews, different teams. So, homonym, free will, strong willed, and to will something to happen. Will. Will is a noun here. Will is the termination. It's the that you want to do something very very badly. I will. The will. Free will. The same ambiguity between the future and the intended can be found in another marker for the future tense. Okay, he talks about markers. In fact, what we do is we are marking the future. He's talking about the tense, but it's really not the tense. Going to or gonna. Going to or gonna. Yeah, this is intention. We'll talk about that in a second. It's as if the language is affirming the ethos that people have the power to make their own futures. It's very interesting because when we use the future, this is a very, very individual decision, right? One person may use the future in one way, another person may use the future in another way, right? Uh, it's there's no real black and white law here. So if I'm teaching and I'm telling you, no, you've got to use will here, not going to, I have to be very, very careful because those kind of laws are bound to be broken. It's something that is inevitable. They're going to be, they are broken. Okay? So, how do we deal with the future? This is what we want to know. Okay, let's simplify this a little bit. Let's just try to make it as simple as possible, okay? And then you can decide what you want to do, how you want to use the future, and try. Make attempts. See what you can do. Uh, First of all, when you're considering plans, it's best to use the progressive or going to or will. Probably in that order, because the progressive is the most, let's say, really, really 100%. This is a program. This is my plan. It's in my agenda. I'm flying to Madrid on Thursday. All right. That's the future. Thursday is the future. And so that's my plan. I'm going to fly. You can say that too. It just gives it a little bit more of an intention idea. And I will fly is also possible for a plan. Or I won't fly. All of these can be expressed also in the negative. Intention, number two, going to. All right. I'm going to do something. This is my intention. All right. This is quite different. My intention uh, could be something without a plan. Right. If I say our team are going to win. Okay, I said are because I want you to pay attention. This could be both English, can say team plural, team singular. Our team are going to win. Okay, we have the match on Saturday. I can also say on Saturday, but I think that you can see that this is not really a plan. Of course, we want to win, but we may make some plans to win, but the expression our team is going to win, are going to win, this is an intention. Okay, so my intention, we intend to win. So anytime that you want to express an intention, going to is the super phrasal auxiliary phrase that you can use. Going to. Now, on the other hand, when it's very spontaneous or when you want to express something of a determination, will is the super choice. Spontaneous decision is like, it's very cold in this room. Listen, I'll close the door. I'll close it. I stand up and I close the door. It's spontaneous decision. It's not really an intention. I'm not intending to do anything. I'm just thinking about it. I cannot say I close the door, or I cannot say I am closing the door until I actually stand in front of it and close it. I am closing now. It's different. I'm telling you that I had a decision. I will close the door. I'll close the door. So determination, we will win, we will win, we will win. This is like determination. So you see, this also becomes very, very close to intention, but try to remember spontaneous decision. And one of the ways that we can separate these two is give you an example. You and I decide to have a party. Okay, we have Saturday. We write Saturday, so we're having a party on Saturday. We're having a party. That's the plan. Uh, and I say, well, listen, George, I'll bring the champagne. You see, spontaneously, I'll bring. We did. I didn't even think about having a party until this conversation. So now I'll bring the champagne. Good idea, Anthony. Good idea. I'll bring the cake, you say. I'll bring the cake. Okay, we have a good idea now. I go off and I tell my wife. I say, Laura, we're having a party on Saturday, or we're going to have a party on Saturday, or we'll have a party on Saturday. You can say them both, all three. And Laura says, oh, can I come? Sure, why not? She says, I'll bring some champagne. And I say, no, I'm going to bring the champagne. I'm going to. Or I'm bringing the champagne. I'm bringing it. So this is not a spontaneous idea, you see? And so Laura, just to make this story a little more consolidated, okay, I'll bring some cake. And I said, no, George is bringing the cake. You see? So I use the plans, the progressive for the plan, the going to for the plan, and the spontaneous decision for the will. Something like that. With predictions, which makes up a large part of the future, we can use going to or will. Okay, so there are some cases where maybe going to is a little bit more, seems a little more scientifically sure, but let's go back and look at those other slides, those first 2 or 3 slides. The future is not so scientific. So, yes, in my opinion, if you are learning, this is where you make your decision. You decide where you use will, where you're using going to in a prediction. Okay, listen to people, listen to how they use it, and you will see that this is good advice. Okay, well, thank you for bearing with me. I will let you know the next time we will have a topic, and I'll see you the next time. Okay, it was a pleasure, and thank you for watching this. See you next time, and don't forget to subscribe.